And we are now live. Critical Blast is here with Darren Davis, the publisher of, I keep wanting to say TidalWave Comics, and I keep wanting to say Blue Water Comics because I think it used to have a different name at one point.
I can explain all that too. Yeah, it's TidalWave. We started off as TidalWave Comics 19 years ago, and then I left on my own from my business partner, and I quit comic books. I was sick of it, done with it. And then I decided to self-publish, and so I decided to call it Blue Water Productions. I was in Vancouver, BC at the time with my mom. We were having dinner at a place called Blue Water, and she kind of talked me into getting back into it. And so I started again with the 10th Muse, and we did Blue Water Productions. And then we got a TV show deal for Insane Jane. And so there was this problem with using Blue Water Productions as a production company. If we were to move forward into the world of TV and movies, we have about 5 things optioned now. And so we had to change the title of the company. And so literally after, it was probably 10, 15 years, we changed to, I screwed up and I called it Stormfront Entertainment. Which
you don't want to call it that.
No, and I didn't. Because I used to work for DC Comics, and when I got let go from DC, because they didn't know what to do with me and my job and all that type of stuff, and because DC just took over Wildstorm, I was working for Wildstorm, so I stayed there for about a year, and so I started this side business called TidalWave Production, or not TidalWave, Stormfront Productions. And that was before it had any bad innuendos to it whatsoever. And for people that don't know, Stormfront.com is like the biggest neo-Nazi company or whatever organization out there. And so I just thought, okay, I have the logo, I'll just call it this. I didn't figure it out. Then I called it Storm, and Storm was just kind of, so I kind of got lost for a little while. And then I'm like, hey, let's just go back to what I know best, and it's TidalWave. So we are
growing things.
19 years back to TidalWave.
Full circle.
Exactly.
So you've got things that are optioned. I mean, that seems to be where the money is in a lot of comics these days. And I know Mark Miller is making, that's pretty much his living, is just throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks at Netflix and then continuing to publish that. And if it doesn't, then cancel it, move on to something else.
Right. And so that's always been kind of like one of the things that I've always kind of done since the beginning. I started 10th Muse with a film company. It was like called Filmtown. One of my best friends worked there, and he hooked me up with them. And so he was my partner in all this. His name was Adam Rotenberg. And then Filmtown was supposed to make this. They had the rights to work with Rena Miro. And so they came to us saying, hey, we want her to do something. So what can you create for her? And at that time, I just left DC Comics. I was representing all the top artists in the comic book industry, from like anybody that was not DC, like Randy Green, Adam Hughes. I got him his first Tomb Raider cover. God,
thank you.
Andy Park, like all these like huge names. And so, so I was watching these people create comic books, and I thought to myself, I can kind of create something. Let me try to do it. So ironically, I gave it to I was working with IDW, because a lot of the folks from Wildstorm left when they took over DC and all that stuff, and they started IDW. And so I go, hey, and I was doing we were doing DVD menu design together, and they wanted me to actually be a founding member of IDW. But stupidly, I would have had to put $10,000 in, and I would have been a equal member. I was stupid. So check one for bad mistakes. But I decided to work with them. And so I hired them to come up with a couple takes for what we can do with Sable from the WWE, or F, and at the time. And they came up with like Savage Woman, that type of stuff. And so, to be really honest, and this sounds really kind of cheesy, I'm trying to look to see if I have it over here. So I was watching Xanadu, the really bad 80s movie that is probably one of my favorite go-to movies.
Olivia Newton-John.
Hey,
I love that soundtrack.
We did a comic book on her. We have one. I have one right here. Hold on. We have one signed by Olivia Newton-John because we do biographies and all that stuff.
Oh, excellent.
But so I was watching and I'm like, oh, there's 9 muses. Oh my God, there could be a 10th one hidden at birth, and we'll make her the muse of justice, and do a modern day Greek mythology. And going back to like the optioning and all that type of stuff, I wanted to bring it to modern day rather than do it like set it into a far off land, because I was working with Joe Madureira and I was his agent, and we were trying to get Battle Chasers off the ground as a film. And at that point, people wanted to do like $40 or $45 million movies. They didn't want to do these like $150 million off unknown properties. So I thought, okay, we can do 10th Muse that are modern day. It's going to make it easier to film. It could be a TV show, it could be a movie, and that type of thing. So whenever I've created things, I've always created them in mind of being TV and movie. And what's different about the 10th Muse is, so we used the photo model, and we used, and at the time that was like a big 90s thing, early 2000s thing. There was Alley Cat, there was China, there was like all these photo models. And so I wanted to do something different with the 10th Muse, and I wanted to hire the best writer, and I wanted to hire the best art team to create this book. So you can like the photo of the person, and you can be invested in Rena Miro being the 10th Muse. But then we did covers without her completely, and there it is. Okay, so in my defense, I did not know what I was doing with photo covers at that point. They got.
So you took the photo.
What?
Did you take the photo and do the design?
No, she gave us the photos. We just like put the lightning bolt on her face. It was really poorly done. But we didn't know what we were doing at that time, and they've gotten so much better at what we've done in the past. So yeah, she was supposed to be in the TV show for it. So I hired Ken Lashley, who was coming off of Rising Stars from Top Cow. I knew Top Cow was super hot, so I kind of wanted to not mimic them, but be inspired by them from an art standpoint. And we hired Marv Wolfman, who really kind of wasn't working back in 2000. He was having some legal issues with Blade and all that type of stuff. And so I called him. I loved his stuff. He's one of my favorite writers of all time. And
Mine too.
He signed on board. He actually taught me how to write comic books. So we would sit once a month. I would give him my ideas of what I want to happen in the 10th Muse series. And then he would, and this is it's kind of weird. As I said, nothing's off limits, so I'll talk and whatever you want me to say. But cool. So I created everything from Marv Wolfman because I didn't want to get sued at some point. And it was just this weird thing in my head because he went through this thing with Blade. So it was always in the back of my head, like, okay, if I don't create everything in every character, it could come back and bite me in the butt. And he ended up just being the nicest person to work with. And we did 10 issues together. Yeah, a lot of it at Image Comics. We started it, and the 10th Muse launched at the 6th highest selling comic book, beating, pretty much everything. It was surreal. It was a surreal moment. So
it was a good time in history for #1 issues.
Yeah, it was so weird. It was a fun time in comic books, to be honest.
Yeah.
Image Comics at that point was fun. I worked with Hurricane Press a lot. I lived in LA, so most of my friends lived there too. So we bonded and communicated and talked, and so now it's just so different. It's not as fun. It's
not as fun. I have a hashtag that we put on our timeline all the time that says #RememberComics ? And you can't see it off to the side here, but I've got like about 40 long white boxes that I'm going through the process of resorting and replacing and bagging and boarding everything. And I come across these runs of just great classic comics. And I start taking pictures of the cover and I say #RememberComics.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could go off for hours on the lack of editorial policy at DC and places where my biggest harping is that the Doomsday Clock should have had major impact on every single title in their line, and none of them even know that it's happening.
Right.
That would not have happened under the days of Julie Schwartz and Dick Giordano and
Totally.
Denny O'Neil.
I read. This is gonna sound really horrible, but I only read one comic book now, and it's Batgirl. Batgirl's my favorite heroine, hero, whatever it is. I will show you soon. I'll turn the camera around, and you can see my entire Batgirl collection. I have statues and displays and all that type of stuff. Oh, hey, okay. I'll show you mine. I gotta just jump out of the camera frame for a second. Hold on. Maybe we'll get you the tour. This is the TidalWave tour. So we have basically that's one case. Then we have the other Batgirl collection. Then we have the other Batgirl collection. So it's a little nuts. So this is pretty much my office, my life. We got Borky holding the Tito's bottle. We got the Adam West signed poster from one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my world. So yay! Sorry for that.
No, that's fine. That's since we're sharing our Batgirl fetishes.
She's my favorite.
Oh, mine too.
Wow, that's cool.
And I get all these. I don't want to say no name, but little known artists when I go to conventions because they're cheaper.
Right.
and I just have them do Batgirl. And
wow. Okay. Hey,
it didn't start out. It became a collection of Batgirl because nobody was drawing her at the time. I've got a beautiful 1966 print of her somewhere here. Of course, the crown of my collection is I've got two photographs from the 1966 series, one of her solo and one of her with Adam West and Burt Ward, and she signed both of them. And I've got the trifecta on the triple one, so those have got to get framed and put up somewhere.
You know, we did the. Do you know we did the Adam West series?
Yes, that wasn't the He Said She Said stuff. That was
No,
what was your banner on that one?
Yeah, it was the Misadventures of Adam West. It's Adam West. He struggling actor. He's typecast. He's like William Shatner, and so a fan sends him an amulet in the mail, and he gets to go back into time and be all the people that he wanted to be. It's sort of like a Walter Mitty kind of story. And so so it ended up spinning. It did really well, and it's run, I think we have 20 issues of it. And then we spun off Julie Newmar, who probably is the most loveliest person I've ever met in my entire life. And so we did The Secret Life of Julie Newmar, which basically so do you know why Julie Newmar was not in the Batman movie?
I don't know why Eartha Kitt got the role at one episode. So,
well, I'll tell you why. It's because she was a super secret spy, and she was doing time traveling, and so she couldn't be in the movie. So that's what we say in the comic book. So it's like this. It's a nonfiction book, and it's super.
Sure.
No, it's a fiction book. Sorry.
It's a fiction book, right?
It's a fun series that we get to do with her, and then a little bit of gossip is that we tried working with Burt Ward. So, and he's just a nightmare. He made me cry.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Well.
So we did one issue of him. It was called Burt Ward Boy Wonder. And what is timely on it is if you look at any of the stuff from the new Crisis on Infinite Earth with Burt Ward on there, that's our design for the character that we did with him. So he's totally
Oh, very cool. So do you have any inside scoop on what he's doing on Crisis on Infinite Earths?
No, we don't. We just know that he's wearing the outfit we created for him. So
he'll be Robin.
He's in. I think he's probably Dick Grayson, probably. But in our outfit, so we should get credit for that.
You absolutely should. I'm excited to see if there's any unannounced people that are just going to show up that they've been keeping hush hush. To see like people like Linda Carter. I would absolutely love to see Joanna Cameron get back in front of the camera again. She did ISIS.
Yeah. So we actually, so that was my second series is our version of ISIS. We did Legend of ISIS.
Got it.
But this is a really hard book to bring back now. We are bringing it back. Let's see. Boop, 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 there. We had this option as a movie at Paramount, and it was going to star Lindsay Lohan and Kelsey Grammer. And so, what's interesting too is if you get I just have everything just off to the side. So if you get this, the Joanna Cameron one,
yes,
on the back, you can get Legend of Isis #1 for free, our comic book. So we struck a deal. I think it was, I don't remember the company that did this. So, but we struck a deal with them to do.
I think it was BCI.
Yeah, actually, was it BCI? Yes. Yeah, so we struck a deal to do that with them. So it was really neat to be part of the ISIS folklore, and people love it. And Marv Wolfman, as I said, Marv Wolfman taught me how to write comic books. And so that's how I actually wrote ISIS, Legend of Isis, with him. But now it's such a hard title because of the terrorist group.
Yeah, we should start calling them ISIL so we can have ISIS back.
I know. But I guess in the new Black Adam movie, she's going to be in that. So we'll see how that works.
That'll be interesting.
And she kind of is in Legend tomorrow.
You've said, yeah, they call her Zari. They won't go with ISIS there. And I don't know if she's going to be back in Legends of Tomorrow because they altered the timeline. Spoiler alert.
Okay.
So where her brother replaced her. So,
that's the only show I dumped. I watched all of them. Love Batwoman. Love Supergirl. I love them all. I just can't do Legend. So
it's the only one. It doesn't take itself very seriously, which is fine. It is what it is. But yeah, it just doesn't mesh with the others that well until they actually make it mesh.
Right.
Now, you mentioned a couple of times here that Marv Wolfman taught you how to write comics. I've seen a couple of different schools on how to do that. On one end of the spectrum, there's the Stan Lee, Daredevil fights the Jester, and it's in a pie factory. Go. And then there's the Alan Moore, page 1, panel 1, text box 1. It's dark outside. Ellipsis. Go to next text box. Off to the right, slightly lower. So what's your plan on that? How do you approach it?
My plan is if you do the Stan Lee kind of way, you kind of have to trust your artist a lot. I kind of fall somewhere sort of in the middle where I will plot everything out, and then once I give it to the artist, then I'll go back in and I'll do dialogue and stuff to it. So it just makes it easier for me. It's the way I learned. So, which I like.
Now, obviously, the reason we made this contact and are having this interview is because 10th Muse is coming back after 19 years. Is this going to be a hard reboot? Is this going to be we're back after 19 years and a lot of stuff has happened?
It's kind of both. So if you haven't read 10th Muse, you're going to pick up and you're going to go, oh, wow, this is great. I like this story. It's fun. But if you've loved it from the 2000s, you're going to get to know the characters all over again. And so I wanted to make this one just as evergreen as the other ones that we've done. So this is just another jumping off point so new fans can come on.
Right. I mean, she is a Greek muse and she's been around a while. 19 years is just an eye blink to her.
Exactly. Totally.
So what's the story here?
This one's fun. We bring back Medusa, one of her classic villainesses. We kind of tie into a little more like social things that are happening. Like 10th Muse is now dating, and she's dating somebody with HIV, and so it's kind of like how that actually works into it. But it's also a lot of action. It's a lot of adventure. It's a lot of still modern day Greek mythology set, or it's a modern day world set in Greek mythology. So it's a fun ride. I love it. And the art.
Well, being immortal.
What was that?
Being immortal, she pretty much has her pick of who she wants to be with. So she doesn't have to quite worry so much as as normal people.
Exactly, and she gets beat up a lot. So and in the first issue she does. So, and we've kind of changed the way that we do comic books too. So they're a little bit smaller than a traditional comic book, but they have a spine now, and it's a cardstock cover. So it's a little nicer than just like the floppy comics that technically would be. Yeah, I don't have a floppy comic on me, but there's a whole ton of them over there. but yeah, so I really love the format that this is, and we started doing this with the biography comic books, and so it could actually be sold in schools and libraries, and so these now can be as well. So they're like little tiny mini graphic novels.
Excellent. Are you doing your own printing, or how are you taking care of distribution on that?
Our distribution is through Ingram, and so we do print on demand. So, but the quality is it's better than anything I've seen, and it gets you into more channels. We're not technically in the comic book channels anymore, comic book store channels, but comic book stores can order them if they want, same discount. But we're sold more in Barnes and Nobles. Mostly Amazon is the easiest place to find our stuff. It just we worked with Diamond, and Diamond was not, and once again I'll just say stuff. Diamond was not the easiest people to work with through the years. So, and they never really, so what people probably don't know is, so in 2008 we kind of, comic books were not selling.
Yeah.
People, the top selling comic book in the 90s, the X-Men #1, when Jim Lee jumped on, I think it was sold like 8 million copies. Now the top selling comic book probably sells maybe 100,000. So that just goes down the food chain. And so when you get down to like independence and all that type of stuff, Vincent Price, when we did Vincent Price Presents at Image, it sold maybe 1,000 copies. And then we started doing these biography comic books, and comic book stores didn't know what to do with us. So the first one that we ever did, here, I have it right here, it's framed on my wall. It's Hillary Clinton, and it's actually signed by her.
I have that one too, but not signed.
And for people that don't like Hillary Clinton or like Hillary Clinton, I do have a Sarah Palin one that signed to down on the floor over there, or just down over there. But the biographies that we do them unbiased, so you can like either person and just really enjoy the story. And from what we did because I've always done female empowerment comic books, like 10th Muse, ISIS. We've never gone like over TNA. It's not, we have a lot of female readership that really likes what we do. We started this series called Female Force, and it really is about female empowerment. It's women that have made a difference in the world, and we tell them in biographical ways. And so, as I said, the first ones we did was Sarah Palin and Hillary Clinton. And, we kind of took notice that IDW did Barack Obama and John McCain at the time in 2008. And so these took off, and we got on like every single news organization you could think of. And it kind of changed the game for us, because these comics were selling, and they were selling in non-traditional comic book stores, and people are clamoring for it. When we did Michelle Obama, we showed her in front of the White House before she was ever stepping in front of the White House. And so, but comic book stores didn't know what to do. They're like, what do we do with these? They're like,
it's not action, it's no capes.
Right. And so there became a lot of backlash, and with us, or especially with me. And I took a lot of that super personal. And but what people don't know is that my background is, I came from the entertainment industry. I worked at Entertainment Television for 6 years. I worked at USA, the Sci-Fi Network. I worked at Lionsgate. And
again, thank you for all of that.
You're welcome. I worked on,
that's my viewing schedule pretty much.
And what's fun about some of that is that like getting to work on the Leprechaun series and Warlock, which were and they gave me the license because I used to work there. And so getting to work, it's like coming home again with them. So, because I worked on the marketing plan for Leprechaun, Foreign Space, and In the Hood or whatever. So, and it was fun. So I got to do those. But the biographies, like literally, we did Twilight comic books, and as I said, things were starting to dwindle down for comic books, and they need to diversify. And a lot of them, have pops now, and they have a lot of toys and posters and that kind of stuff. That's the only way that they can really stay in business. But to have just like a regular comic book store is a really hard business. And so what we were trying to do, and nobody got it, is, hey, have a Twilight night at your house, at your comic book store. get all these like tween girls and moms and whatever to come in, buy the comic books, and then they're going to see other stuff. They're going to buy Spider-Man for their son. They're going to do this. It's getting new readership. And that's one of the biggest problems that comic books have, even to this day, because I can now turn on Disney Plus, watch 85 X-Men movies, or not X-Men movies, but Avengers movies. I can watch DC Universe. I can watch all that stuff. Kids are not reading anymore. And so free comic book day is fine. It's not, they've been doing it for 10, 15 years. It's not the solution. So
yeah, I'm not quite sure what the solution is. I know that there's several different competing theories about either saving comics or let it burn to the ground and start something fresh after that. I don't know. It's again, this gets back to comics aren't fun anymore. And for me, it's like everyone's trying to go after the new readership to expand, but they biting themselves in the face, which is very hard to do.
Right. Exactly.
They shut off the old audience in order to get the new audience. I was like, that's not how you expand. That's how you start over and wish and pray that this thing works.
And that's why I like what we do is that, we do have the biography things that are totally separate than the other fiction that we do. But then I got pigeonholed as a sellout. People think I totally sold out by doing them. And it's just actually good business, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I've never not done fiction books while doing these. Right now we have we're redoing Dorian Gray. So we did a retake of Dorian Gray, and but it's basically like Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets Gossip Girl, and so we did a modern day version of Dorian Gray, and it's amazing. I love it. That's one of the things that we have optioned. I do things as miniseries now, so it's a little easier to just do 4 issues, can it, graphic novel it, and then come back to it maybe like in a year or something to that effect.
Sure.
It's just easier for me to do. But yeah, and that's why 10th Muse is coming back. And 10th Muse has been around. We did a crossover series called Crossed Wires 2 years ago. And it was basically 10th Muse and Demon Slayer, 10th Muse and Bomb Queen. And so that was a fun little series that we did. And then also like doing the Adam West stuff has been great. We worked with Shatner. We did all the sequels to Ray Harryhausen's films. That was one of the highlights of my life, is to work with that legend.
I remember the Ray Harryhausen comic books that you did, and that's why I was getting the publication names mixed up, because I'm like, this has the same feel as these books, but it's a different name. Is it the same company?
Yeah, those were great. Those were great books. And, we did The Wrath of the Titans, which actually which was made into a film. So
and 20 Million Miles More.
Exactly, yeah. The art is great. The storytelling is great. It's just, they're fun. It's a fun, and that's what you're saying, is that because I take a lot of what I create from my childhood, and I loved Greek mythology. I loved all like those Sinbad movies and the Jason the Argonauts, Clash of the Titans. Let's see here. We'll grab this here. So I still have this, which is like the original novel of Clash of the Titans, signed by Harryhausen. So, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, and so I love all this stuff. This is literally my childhood. Isis was part of my childhood. So when I did, our new Legend of Isis series, I made sure that it had a nod to the TV show, but without taking any copyright or trademark anything with that, because I wanted to do our own story, because she's within public domain, and we did it right. And she launched at, I want to say it was like either number 15 or 16 when we were at Image, highest books. We did well for a while. So. Yeah,
I mean, Isis being a mythological character, anyone can run a book called Isis, I suppose. I did an interview with Lou Scheimer several years back, and we talked about Isis, and I asked him, like, how does the copyright on something like Isis work? Because she was part of the Captain Marvel Shazam series. They had comic books at DC about her, but Filmation kind of sort of owned that version, I think, because they had the creative process on it. It was a very tangled creativity process.
Right. And
I
now,
can't even imagine trying to untangle that now.
well, they brought, when they did the new 52 or whatever it is, they did bring ISIS into that with Black Adam and all this stuff. And one interesting thing is, because we've been doing the ISIS series, and yeah, our ISIS has the sexy midriff and all that type of stuff. And DC Comics ended up having to change their look to their ISIS based off our ISIS, which was kind of neat. So
yeah, got there first.
Yeah, we got there first, or technically second. So
Well,
it's been fun.
Well, I think the biography books that you guys do are actually pretty important, because there's whether or not kids are reading comics the way they were before, all that aside, reading comics is still this gateway to literacy, because you have the words and pictures working together, and there's no other medium that does that it forces you to engage both sides of the brain in order to make sense of what you're seeing. Movies don't do it. TV doesn't do it. Straight out prose doesn't do it. And you have your entire brain working on interpreting what you're seeing and filling in the gaps. And
Right.
if you're learning about people in the process, that's just perfect. The more biographies like that, the better.
So the way that I got into comic books, or liked comic books, is I was a reluctant reader, and I was a really bad reader. And so my parents didn't care what I was reading. Of course they kind of cared, but so they threw comic books in front of me, and I remember getting Super Team Family #1, because I did not get to go to the Statue of Liberty and my brother because I got sick, and so they brought me this comic book, and I gravitated towards the medium because I was such a bad reader, and they just threw this at me, and I loved it. And so they just kept buying me comic books. And so I really had this, it really helped my reading skills. And so that's why, like, the biography things, like here's the LeBron James one that just came out. What's neat about this is that we're not the first company to do biography comic books, and people think we are, but biographies have been done in the 50s. There was like Bob Hope biography comic books, and some Western Star people. And then in the 90s, 80s and 90s, Rock and Roll Comics did it. And then there was the Amy Fisher comic books and these. And so we're just the next generation. And I think I take my love for pop culture and bring it into that world. So you're going to see, we've done Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We've done Ellen DeGeneres. Here, I'll show you. Here, sorry, people. We did Gloria Steinem, and she signed a copy for us. We've done Barbara Walters. We've done Hillary Clinton, as I said. We've done Lady Gaga, which that was a fun one. We did the Honey Boo Boo comic book with Mama.
Oh my gosh.
So, and then here's some on the floor. Sorry, this is really bad. But there's Sarah Palin, and we did Anne Rice and Carrie Fisher. So I just have no room for anything anymore. We did Ron Paul. So it literally turned into doing, it started off with the female empowerment series, and then it went into, let's tell the story about politicians, because I learned a lot in 2008 about politics. I was not probably the most savvy person, but having to do these comic books, I became savvy, and so it helped me really understand that. And so now we do a series called Political Power, and we will be doing, the newer ones that we have coming out are kind of heavy on the Democrat way, but 4 years ago, 3 years ago, it was heavy on the Republican way, because the way that the presidency works. So because we have a Republican president, all these Democrats are now coming out of the woodwork. And the same thing when, Obama left, all these Republicans came out. So we did Jeb Bush, we did Rand Paul, we did all these people. And
a way to introduce them to the public.
Totally. And that's what we're doing now. So with this new election, we have like 3 or 4 that are actually being worked on. And
I always loved it when I always loved it when a president would appear in a comic book and it was actually the president. Like when you have the issues where John F. Kennedy is meeting Superboy,
Right.
or
Oh,
when you have the Clintons at Superman's funeral. It's funny. I think almost every politician has appeared. Recent politicians have appeared in a comic,
right.
and probably our current president has had the most comics done about him while in office. Just from just the spate of parodies that are all over the place, and praise ones too. To be fair, I mean you've got things like Thump, the first 100 days, where they turn him into a lovable plush rabbit and set it to poetry.
Well, when we did 2 Donald Trump comic books, and in all fairness, just as I said, like with the Female 4 series, we're doing unbiased books. So at the end of the day, I don't want anybody to know who I vote for.
Of course not.
I don't want any, and so people do. I've been called a racist. I've been called a Nazi, and I'm Jewish. That was like the weirdest part. So there's like weird stuff. You just sit there going, I don't understand. So
that happens a lot in this current year. I don't understand that either. It's just the thing to do now is to just throw the Nazi word around.
Exactly.
I've had it happen to me. I'm.
Hold on, I gotta plug this in. Sorry, phone is dying. So you can continue.
Oh no!
Are you there?
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. So, yeah, I didn't realize the phone was not plugged. Okay. Okay, there you go. There's your station identification break. There you go.
I am enjoying that Filmation cell of Batgirl up there.
That's actually what is it from? It's do you remember the Warner Brothers Studio store?
I do remember that store.
So these were done by an artist for the Warner Brothers Studio store. There's like a set. There's like, I think there's like 10 more. There's like the Riddler. I just got the hero ones. And they're done from the Batman animated series.
Okay, because she looked like the one that was voiced by Melinda Britt in the New Adventures of Batman.
Love that one. I have, once again, I could reach right over here and pull the DVD.
All my DVDs are upstairs in the DVD cabinet, but yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
I have one.
I've got almost every Filmation one.
I have one room where it has all this stuff and nothing else. So everything else is like Pottery Barn or whatever. I just recently got married, so.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah,
I think I saw your Twitter pictures on that.
What was that?
I think I saw your Twitter pictures on that too.
Yes. So I don't want to get yelled at for having superhero stuff all over the house. So.
Yeah, well, that's why I have dim light, and if I tilt this just a little bit more, you would see rafters, because I've been relegated to the basement, where my wife says all of this stuff belongs. So I said, okay, well, I'll just put some shelves down here and unpack, because I've been moving this stuff around for close to 20 years, and a lot of it stayed in Rubbermaids the entire time. So it was like Christmas when I got down here, and I've still got boxes all over the place that I'm trying to unpack. And I've got a box over there of large comics. That's where I've got some more of my Batgirl prints. Unfortunately, all the walls are concrete, so I can't hang things up
there are
as easily as I'd like to.
You could find concrete nails.
I should get to that, but it's a rental place, so I don't plan on staying here forever.
Yeah. So that's like the funniest thing is that like I have no wall space in this place. So I do have stuff in the garage that's hung. So. But,
all right. Well, when can we expect to see 10th Muse in the stores? It's got to be soon now.
It came out last week, issue number,
oh.
And number 2 will be out next month, and I have a sneak peek right here. So
very cool. So you're keeping like a monthly schedule, like a real comic book publisher.
I do. I try to take this as serious as possible. I've produced over 1,100 comic books. I don't think people get that. So I've done so many. It's unreal. So
are you looking at this as an ongoing or as a limited?
This one will be a limited. See, I'll show you. Okay, here's another thing. Sorry, people that are watching this. So this here, like we did Logan's Run. I don't remember if you know the film.
Yes.
Yeah, so we did all the comic books for Logan's Run. And so this is every single issue comic book I've ever produced. from like Margaret Thatcher to, these are all the same ones, to Robin Hood, to here's Victoria's Secret Service, and here's your Donald Trump one. So Power of Valkyrie is Judo Girl, Vincent Price Presents. So yeah, I've been doing this for a while. So
when you go to press with a book like 10th Muse, how much of it do you have done when your first issue is published? I mean, do you start publishing while you're still writing, or do you write the whole thing first and then say, okay, now we can start publishing?
I want at least 2 books in the can before I even solicit a book, because I don't want to get, I don't like people having to wait. And because this used to be a monthly world, I want to try to make it monthly and fun. So as the biography things are different, I kind of keep a lot of them under wraps, because we do get a lot of press attention from them. So as soon as I upload it to like Ingram and Amazon and that type of stuff, that's when I'll announce it, because then you get direct sales just from the announcement. And so since I don't do advertising, we do, like, as I said, if like I'm trying to think of like the Hillary Clinton one, we've done 3 on her, and we've been on The View, we've been on Larry King, we've been on CNN. It's just it's weird. And then when you do LeBron James one, you're on ESPN, and so it's just it's neat, it's fortunate, and we just
let the press advertise for you.
What was that?
Let the press advertise for you.
Right. And then sometimes we get the calls like from, this was the kind of scary one. We did a Stormy Daniels comic book.
I've seen it.
And we got a call. So there's nothing like sitting at your desk doing your work. And I work from home. So like, this is literally my world. My dog's in the other room right now, but it's just us. It's like, except for all the artists and the writers that I work with amazing people. And so I get this call and it says Michael Avenatti on the phone. And I'm like, oh, come on. I'm like, what? So I answer the phone. I'm like, hi, this is Darren. And he goes, this is Michael Avenatti. I'm like, what? And I was like, I freaked out. Cause I like, you would think he would have like an assistant that goes, I have Michael Avenatti on the phone for you. But he was like, yeah. And so that was just wow. That was like,
was he wanting you to pull the book, or just talk about the book, or oh dear. Well,
and he was scared.
He's not going to be a problem anymore.
What?
He's not a problem anymore.
Yeah, he's not a problem anymore. So, but what is ironic is, and I can kind of give you a little bit of an exclusive, is that we will be doing the Stormy Daniels comic with an appendix with a new couple pages to what she's up to, and we're actually going to be working with her on it. So
how are the plans for the Michael Avenatti book?
So the Michael Avenatti, so that was actually one of the secrets that I'll just spell here. Is so when I was talking to him, I know he has a big ego. And so he's like, you can't do this because it's Stormy Daniels and that's not her real name. That's copyright infringement. And what are you doing? And I'm like, do you know what we do? And, we do these political comics, and, we've done Anderson Cooper, Laura Ingraham. So we do both sides. We do not just politicians. We do Colin Powell. So I go, I would love to do a comic book on you. And he's like, what? Okay. So I had something drawn up that next day, and I'm like, and I give it to my agent. I'm like, here, you get, because I didn't want to deal with him anymore. And I go, here, deal with it here. And so we never really heard from him again. So
that's too bad.
Yeah, we did get threats, but it was fun. So
well, you have mentioned that you option a lot of things for with an eye towards TV and movies. Is there anything that's close to hitting the screen that we might be attributing to your work?
Well, right now, Insane Jane is something that we have that we just are changing some stuff in that. So stuff has been filmed on it, but we're changing some stuff on it. That's about all I can kind of say on that. Dorian Gray has a screenplay. Gears which is like it's kind of like Metal Men meets, I'm gonna use Gossip Girl again. So that has a screenplay. What else has a screenplay?
I got hooked on Gossip Girl. I watch all those CW shows.
I know, they're so good. Nanny and Hank, which is it's like what would happen is if you got transformed as a vampire at like 75 or 80, when you're not all glittery and pretty, you're like curmudgeon-y and it doesn't fix you. You're just bitchy and complaining the entire time. So that's
your back still hurts.
Yeah, and so that has a screenplay as well. So, and it's not me that's doing the screenplays. I'm like not a screenplay person, but my agent, the Bohemia Group, is the people that actually are finding the screenwriters and doing all that type of stuff, and then they are going out to different companies. And as I said, the one that I got the most hit on was probably either Insane Jane and Legend of Isis, because that was supposed to be a Paramount, but the movie Sahara killed it because they didn't want to do another Egyptian film.
And then every 3 years you get one of those. You get The Mummy. You get all those things. I was just laughing because I was thinking of the old vampires. Like, man, it would have to suck to be stuck in your coffin all day long with the sun out and having to pee. Because when you're an old man, that's what happens. You get up 3 times a night to do that.
Exactly. That's kind of what we touch into, and like gum, taking out your dentures. And so it's a really fun book, and it's like one of my favorites, actually based off my grandparents. So I take a lot of everything that I pretty much create. I name them after people, like if it's my family, that type of stuff. The 10th Muse, Emma, is, my niece, Emma, her name's not Sonnet, but Emma. My mom is in it, Dawn, and her best friend, Brett. And so it's like I name people for all the characters. Yeah. So
I'm the author on Warren Murphy's The Destroyer series right now. And cool. I do the same thing. I just, well, I've got to kill somebody in chapter 1. It's going to be you, Bob.
As long as you don't kill your wife off, you're fine, right?
I only let Tim. I think only Tim Burton gets away with killing his wife, and he has to let Johnny Depp do it every time.
Oh yeah, that's true too. Ooh.
So real quick before we let go here, what's the ballpark calendar for optioning something? I mean, from the moment that somebody says, "Hey, I'm interested in this," to something's actually happening and people are sitting in seats, because you hear these nightmare stories about it's in development hell, and it never gets seen.
Too long. I wish it was something faster, but I think it also depends, who's attached. If you can get an actor and actress attached right away, then it goes to their schedules and that type of stuff. So
yeah,
I think that's not my wheelhouse anymore. So I leave that to my agent, and I just kind of just go, please, just get me something.
Because I'm sitting on pins and needles in the same boat, because I know that The Destroyer is optioned for a movie right now, and Shane Black is attached to direct it. I was like, okay, when's that happening? Well, it'll happen after this and after this, and his last movie didn't do so well, so he's not really hot anymore. I'm like, oh crap, it's never going to happen while I'm on the book. Because that would be ideal for me to be the current writer while a movie goes out.
Of course.
But, we can dream.
We just started getting into doing novels as well. So, because I just don't want to be pigeonholed into comic books. So we did an Insane Jane novel. We've done a Dorian Gray novel. We did Sinbad, Rogue of Mars, and we have Wrath of the Titans. It's a different version from what the movie and graphic novel is. That's actually coming out December 9th. And we're working with Marcosia on it. So,
Martina Marcosia?
No, Marcosia, the publishing company.
Oh, okay.
They're in the UK. Yeah, they're an independent comic book company, and I've always wanted to do something with them. So they're doing and handling all our novels, our prose books.
Yeah, we have just gotten into that ourselves. I've been doing the internet thing for over 20 years. Critical Blast has been here for 5 years. The place I was working at before, the owner decided to sell it off, and I just started off on my own. And then last year we did our first anthology, which was Gods and Services, which was the little you know, the pop-up store that wasn't there yesterday, won't be there tomorrow, sells little Chinese takeout boxes and Van Gogh paintings, but whatever you buy has a god attached to it. Inspired off the Tony Randall series with the Tony Randall movie with Burl Ives called The Brass Bottle, where, you know,
Okay.
this being has to make your life better, whether you like it or not. And then just last October, last month, less than a month ago, on Halloween, we released our first young adult novel, Bulletproof, which is it's a superhero novel about a kid who turns 16 and is bulletproof, but he also has attention deficit disorder and he can't focus very well. So he's just kind of out there following every whim as he tries to bust crime, and these terrorists are after him for the formula that made him bulletproof. So we're having a lot of fun with that one.
Or it just works for high school these days.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, he actually does survive a school shooting because he's bulletproof. But I can't reveal that scene because it spoils something. Fortunately, only one person gets shot and they're okay. Anyway, Darren, thank you so much for sitting down to talk with us.
Thank you.
I think we could probably chat about the good old days of comics and how we're going to make them better in the future for another hour or two. But it's you know, keep the faith and keep putting out comics, and let us know every time something comes out, and we will plug it.
I am like the Cher of comic books. I am the roach that will never go away. I've been doing this 19 years now. I'm not going anywhere. So
I've been reading them for 40, so I'll stick around.
We just have to have fun. That's it.
Yes.
Well,
all
thank
right.
you again.
Well, thanks. We'll see you later.
Take care.